Every day we are faced with the challenge of separating fact from fiction.
Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. Hosted by James Brolin. We live in a world where the real and the unreal live side by side. Where substance is disguised as illusion. And the only explanations are unexplainable. Will you be able to separate stories of truth from fantasy tonight? To do so, you must break through the web of your experience and open your mind to things beyond belief.
What appears to be one thing, like this carving of a duck, might really be another. Like a carving of a rabbit. It's all a matter of perception. Tonight we present several stories for your entertainment, but we ask you to test your perception as you watch them unfold. Are these stories constructed from whole cloth, or are they inspired by real events? You have until the program's end to decide, and by the way, we've reserved the right to change the names and details. So, let's begin our little game of cat and mouse, or should we say duck and rabbit. A disturbing piece of furniture, isn't it? The last bed we will ever sleep in. To even view it empty, like this, sends shivers down many people's spines, but for others it has no effect at all. Adam Foster was not shaken by the sight of a coffin. His family ran the Foster funeral home. There were always several of these in their downstairs parlor, usually with occupants. No big deal. Until the night of March 18th.
Brent? Brent, are you in here? Come on, Brent, if you're in here, just come out now. All right, I'm not gonna waste my time looking for you. I don't have to. That's not funny.
It was just a joke.
You know you're not supposed to be fooling around in the coffins.
Oh, come on. Don't be such a stiff.
All right, let's go. Come on.
Has anyone seen my keys?
It won't be funny when they bury you alive.
Yeah.
There you are. We were going to leave without you. Now, you don't want to be late for Billy's, do you? Get going.
He was fooling around in the coffins.
Well...
I was not. Adam's lost his sense of humor.
Has anyone seen my keys?
Brent, I've told you before, stay out of the caskets. They're for sale.
Oh, Mom.
Now, scoot.
Brent,
The movie's over at 10:30. We'll be home by 11.
Help me find my key. We are never going to get out of here. Foster Funeral Home. I'm sorry, we're closed.
Mr. Foster, it's Beverly Hannon. I'm sorry for calling so late.
Oh, Mrs. Hannon, good evening.
Leave me alone.
How can I help you?
I was wondering, could we possibly postpone my husband's funeral tomorrow?
Postpone it?
I know this is an odd request, but you see, before Reginald died, he made me promise to bury him with his war medals. Now I can't find them anyplace. Is there any possible way we could just postpone the funeral?
Well, it is getting very late, and I'm not sure that I can contact everyone.
You just don't understand. If Reginald wanted something done in a certain way, come hell or high water, he made sure it was done that way. I'm not going to let him down with this.
Mrs. Hannon, I know how important this is to you, but if you keep looking for them, I'm sure that you will find them. And we can talk about this again in the morning.
In the morning.
Good night. Let's go.
Bye, honey.
Bye, Mom.
Butt face.
I used to get the creeps when they left me alone, especially when there was a body in the chapel. But I guess I was kind of used to it by now. I'm coming. I'm sorry, we're closed.
Need to see Reginald Hannon.
I'm sorry, sir. Viewing hours ended at 7:30.
I can't come to the funeral tomorrow. I must see him tonight, please. It's very important. I have these. These are the medals his wife's been looking for. He's supposed to be buried with them tomorrow. Please let me see him for just a moment. I can't let him be buried without them.
All right, come on. Through here.
I appreciate it.
It was way after hours, and Dad would be furious with me for letting him in. But he did have the medals, and so I figured he must know the guy. Do you mind signing the registry? This guy was starting to get to me. I couldn't wait for him to leave.
May I go in now, please?
Yeah, it's right through here. This was the part I hated the most. Getting anywhere near those dead bodies.
Would you mind if I had a moment alone?
Yeah.
Thank you, my boy. Thank you.
It was okay with me to get away from the casket. I guess my nerves were getting the best of me. The sooner that guy came out, the happier I'd be. Was this guy ever gonna come out? I mean, how close was he to Reginald Hannon? What was he doing in there for so long anyhow?
Hey, mister, I'm gonna need you to cut it short, all right? My dad's not gonna like the fact that I let somebody in after hours, okay? Hello?
Come on, mister. I was nice enough to let you in the first place. How about it?
Sir? Hello?
I couldn't find him anywhere. What was going on here? That's when I found the bag that the medals were in.
What really happened here? How could the stranger at the door have disappeared from sight? Did Adam miss the stranger's exit while he was tying his shoe? If so, why did the stranger appear to be the same man who was in the casket? Was there an identical twin involved that nobody knew about? If that was the case, why did he sign in as the deceased? Or was this the story of a restless spirit who couldn't find peace until his mission was completed? Complete fiction or a strange truth?
Was this story true or false? We'll tell you at the end of our show. Next, a frightening subway ride to a world beyond belief.
How many times do your plans work out? Not just the big plans like career, marriage, family, but the simple plans like getting from point A to point B. That's all Al and Ann Larkin wanted to do. They were going to take the subway from their apartment to a dance club. And they had no idea that this simple plan would take them for the ride of their lives.
Al and I were finally getting a night out together, something we both really needed. It was Al's first night off in a month, and he really wanted to stay home and sleep, but I insisted we go out. We live near a new subway stop in downtown Los Angeles, and we decided to try it out. It was a decision neither one of us would ever forget. I was so excited to be out for the evening that I didn't even notice that we were the only ones standing on the subway platform. I was hoping for one of those romantic nights filled with spontaneous excitement, but Al was tired and it was all I could do to keep his spirits up. Besides, we were about to get all of the excitement we could handle.
Oh, we won't be out late, okay? Dinner, a movie, that's all. Then we'll go home.
Yeah, after midnight.
Oh, come on. Hey, band leader?
Or Undertaker.
The man in the tuxedo was just the start of the strange things that we would experience that night. And as our subway pulled into the first stop, things just didn't seem right. There was a weird energy going on, and Al was feeling it more than I was.
Are we on the right? Are we on the right train?
I don't know. Excuse me, does this train go to Melrose?
This train goes nowhere.
Hey, where'd he go?
I don't know. You know, it's Saturday night. This car should be packed.
I know, and where are the signs to tell you which line you're on?
I don't know. A station, look.
Is that Melrose?
I couldn't tell.
Great. We're on a train that's been taken out of service.
Are you sure about that?
I don't know.
Well, then what do we do now?
We find a conductor.
Of course, there was no conductor anywhere. Every car was empty, and then without any warning, the train began to speed up. And then it didn't feel like a speeding train anymore. It felt like a nightmare that was out of control.
I'm trying to... I can't do that!
Wait a minute, there's a station here.
Where?
Right here. I don't care what station this is, we are getting off. Come on,
stop.
Come on.
I couldn't believe it. The train seemed to actually be coming to a stop. I was just praying with all of my heart that the doors would open.
Right back where we started?
Good. Let's go home. Come on.
Unbelievably, we had only been gone for 30 minutes.
But you're okay, right?
Yeah, I am. I smell gas. It's coming from Mrs. Ewing!
It was our next-door neighbor's apartment.
Mrs. Ewing! Mrs. Ewing, it's me, Ann! Mrs. Ewing!
Watch, I got this. Mrs. Ewing! Mrs. Ewing! Maybe we should call the super.
Well, there isn't time!
And then I remembered the key.
Wait, the key! The key!
Oh, the key.
The chain! Mrs. Ewing!
Oh, I got it. Mrs. Ewing!
Al raced over to Mrs. Ewing while I turned off the gas. If it weren't for that train ride that scared us into coming back early, Mrs. Ewing would have surely died. I should have gone into the other room to help Al, but something caught my eye.
Come on, you gotta get out of here. Come on. Mrs. Ewing. Get out of here, baby. Come on.
I must have turned the heater on and then forgot to light it.
Maybe we should take you to the emergency room.
No, I'm all right. I'm just lucky you two smelled the gas.
Mrs. Ewing, who is this?
Why, that's Edward, my husband. He passed away 29 years ago. He said he'd always watch over me.
We were looking at the same man we saw on the train.
He said he'd never leave me.
Is this story possible? There are subway service trains that test equipment. They don't stop at any stations. They don't pick up any passengers, and they go at higher speeds than normal trains. Could Ann and Al have gotten aboard one of those trains by mistake? But then, where did that other mysterious passenger come from? And was he really a double for Mrs. Ewing's late husband, or were the shadows of the subway playing tricks on their minds? Or are we playing tricks on yours?
Was this story real? We'll find out at the end of our show. Next, a boy lives in fear of a monster in his closet on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
What were your childhood fears? The boogeyman? The monster under the bed? Or simply being afraid of the dark? Most of us outgrow these fears in an early age, but for some, the fears hang on longer. Take Danny Johnson. He's 10 now, but ever since he was 2, he's been afraid of something in his closet. And now that the other kids have found out,
he really has something to fear.
This is a very difficult story for a mother to tell, but years have passed now, so I'll try. My youngest son, Danny, was 10 years old and living in constant terror. His days were filled with threats and taunts from the kids at school. His nights were filled with terrible dreams about a monster inside the closet in his room. My older children had no sympathy for Danny either, and that's a memory I can't lose. Could I have done something to change things? It's a question I ask myself over and over, but what could I have possibly done? I found Danny sleeping downstairs in the middle of the night. That was a common occurrence in our house. Hey, Danny. Honey, wake up. Hey. You can't keep sleeping out here.
I don't want to go up there.
How long is this gonna go on, huh? You have nothing to be frightened of. Okay? Okay, let's go to bed. I'll tuck you in. Okay, Danny. Here. Look. Let's see. Here, no. Let's check up this sleeve here. Nothing. Let's see, down here. You see anything?
No.
No, there's nothing in here. Let's get in bed, and I want you to stay there. All right. Attaboy. Okay, comfortable?
Yeah.
Good.
Please stay with me, Mom.
Oh, honey. You have got to get over this.
But I'm afraid to.
I know. Nothing's gonna get you. There's nothing in the closet. Okay? All right. Oh, and if you don't stay in bed, I'm gonna get you.
Hi, Mom. Love you.
I love you too. There you go. Get off.
Good dreams.
You too. Sweet dreams. Right. Shut the door. Love you, honey. Brian, honey, will you get the juice out of the fridge for me?
No, Mom, I can't.
What?
I'm afraid. There's a monster in the refrigerator.
All right, Brian, would you just stop it? You should be thankful you don't have an imagination like your brother Danny.
If you ask me, nobody has. Danny is just seeking attention. Mom, everybody's laughing at him at school.
All right. That's enough. I want you to leave your brother alone. Understood?
Yes, Mom.
Danny, come on! You're gonna miss the bus! Let's go, you guys. You're gonna be late. Bye. I love you. Love you. Good. Jeanette, come here. Come here. Don't let him get you down.
I won't, Mother.
Okay. I love you.
Bye.
Bye, sweetheart. Have fun! Danny continued to live his life as the outsider. He wanted desperately to fit in and be a part of things, but he was labeled as a coward, the kid who was still afraid of monsters. But as painful as these memories were for Danny, he always knew there were worse moments to come. My older son, Brian, was part of that group that was tormenting Danny this particular day. A day that would change all of our lives forever.
Open the door, Danny! I've got a key! Hey, you guys! You get him tomorrow. Let's go. Come on, you guys. Yeah, it's smart, Danny. We almost got him. He's got to go. I'm paddling with you guys!
Hey, Danny, what do you do with that bat?
Oh, we're so scared. Hey, Danny, better watch out. The monster will get you. I'm not afraid of any of you. I'll take you all on. No, come on, Danny. We're going upstairs. No, please don't get me. Dan, shh. Hey, Danny. Is that the closet? Is that where the monster lives?
Ooh, I bet the monster's really hungry. Hey, what do you say we
open the door?
What are you guys doing? Danny's about to meet his little monster.
Mom's not gonna like that.
Mom's not gonna know, is she, Debbie?
You know, this could have a lasting psychological effect on Danny.
Shut up, Debbie.
If you're so brave, why don't you go in the closet?
Well, okay, baby.
Yeah, Brian, show him.
But you're next.
Be careful, you're next.
Very funny, Brian.
All right, what's going on in here? Huh?
What? No way.
What's this?
That's Brian's shirt.
Where'd he go?
Who?
Brian, he went into the closet.
He's gone.
I told you there's a monster in there.
There's no way the kid could have gotten out of this closet except through the door. Mrs. Johnson, let me ask you again. Is there any reason why your son would want to run away from home?
Excuse me, Mrs. Johnson. I need to speak to my partner.
I couldn't hear exactly what the police were saying to each other, but I guessed what the report would read. My son Brian would be officially listed as a missing person. Another young boy who ran away from home.
It's really weird. The kid just seems to have vanished into thin air.
Well, what do you want me to write in the report? That the kid was eaten by a monster?
Danny's brother was never seen or heard from again. What really happened here? Did Danny's brother run away from home? Was there really a way out of that closet that nobody ever found? Or maybe this was a tragic lesson about being kind to other human beings, taught by a spirit hidden deep in a boy's closet. Or maybe it came from the deep recesses of our writer's imagination.
The truth about this story will be revealed in our final act. Next, a surprise witness makes an appearance at a trial that's beyond belief.
After countless movies and television dramas, live cameras in the courtroom, and extensive news coverage, we sort of know what to expect in a court of law these days. At least that's what the defense lawyer in this next murder trial thought, until he defended Robert Miller and experienced the strangest day in court he had ever seen.
There he was, my client. The manicure, the fancy jewelry. Why would a man like Robert Miller commit murder? No client of mine had ever been found guilty, but this one was going to be tougher than most. The lady DA was making her case now, and I had to advise Miller to keep calm.
Mr. O'Neill, what is your position at the yacht club?
I am the head custodian at the Calabash Yacht Club.
And on the day in question, what were the weather conditions?
There was a storm coming in. I tried to warn Mr. Miller, but he wouldn't listen. That was his way.
So Mr. Miller took a boat out knowing a storm was coming?
Yeah, he said they'd be back in a couple hours and not to worry.
They being Mr. Robert Miller and Elizabeth Warren, the deceased?
Yes.
What was their demeanor?
Pardon?
Were they getting along?
Oh, they were happy, like they were celebrating.
How could you tell?
A lady had a big bottle of champagne and she was drinking.
And the defendant?
No, he was sober. Mr. Miller never drank.
Did Mr. Miller come back within a couple of hours?
Oh, yeah.
Was Elizabeth Warren with him?
No, ma'am.
What did he tell you had happened?
He said that Ms. Warren had fallen overboard. He was pretty upset, but Mr. Miller said he went in after her, and he couldn't find her.
So his clothes were wet?
Yes, they were.
Oh, the cause of death was not from drowning.
How do you know?
We found no water in her lungs.
What was the cause of death then, Dr. Harding?
Blunt trauma to the head.
As if someone had hit her.
I object. The prosecution is asking the coroner to make a conclusion.
Sustained.
I'll ask it another way. Is it your testimony, Dr. Harding, that Elizabeth Warren was dead before she hit the water?
Yes.
Order. Order. Proceed, Mr. Montgomery.
Your Honor, I call Mr. Robert Miller to the stand. How long had you and Elizabeth Warren been business partners?
Nearly 20 years. We were just out of college.
And you were close?
Inseparable. We were not only business partners, we were best friends.
And why on the day of September 23rd did you and the deceased go out on the boat?
I got rid of that.
Mr. Miller?
Pardon?
Why were you and Elizabeth Warren on the boat, Mr. Miller?
We were celebrating the acquisition of Quintel, the computer software company.
And how would you describe your feelings on that day?
It was the happiest day of our lives.
Mr. Miller, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This has just been a very difficult time for me.
I understand, sir. Mr. Miller, the prosecution is trying to make the case that you killed your friend and business partner. Did you?
I could never do that.
Mr. Miller, I think we've covered all we need to cover right now. I can understand how upsetting it is to be accused of murdering your partner and friend of 20 years. I have no more questions. Your witness.
Mr. Miller, you say that Elizabeth Warren was your best friend, but yet it was widely reported that she was going to start a new company. Get out from under your shadow.
No, that's ridiculous. She needed me more than I needed her.
They're not going to buy it, Robert. They all know you're lying. Why are you lying, Robert?
I'm not lying. You would have been nothing without me.
What do you mean she would have been nothing without you? Mr. Miller.
I'm sorry. I meant we were a team. Elizabeth was the idea person, and I was the sales guy.
Sounds to me like you would have been nothing without her.
It's all starting to unravel, Robert.
No, it's not. I won't let it.
Who are you talking to, Mr. Miller?
Your Honor, I request a recess. I must confer with my client.
This is it, Robert. No one believes you. They all know you killed me. And your next stop is the gas chamber.
Stay away from me! I'm not going to the gas chamber! You always did this! You always
Your Honor, this is an outrage. I must insist that my client's rights against self-incrimination be protected.
I put an end to that, didn't I, Elizabeth?
The people rest, Your Honor.
So easy. I got you, Elizabeth.
Will the defendant please rise? In the case of the People versus Robert Elgin Miller, what find you?
We find the defendant, Robert Elgin Miller, not guilty by reason of insanity.
Order. Robert Miller, I'm releasing you to the custody of the State Psychiatric Hospital in North Point. You will remain there until such time as you are deemed mentally competent. Bailiff?
time, Elizabeth. I'll be back. I'll get out. You'll see.
Was he really insane? That's not my call. No client of mine has ever been found guilty.
Was it strained nerves or a guilty conscience that trapped the killer? Or did Robert actually see the woman he murdered? Now, prior to taking the stand, he seemed perfectly calm and collected, yet moments later he was carrying on bizarre conversations with an unseen presence. Or perhaps it was all just a clever ploy to avoid the death penalty. Fiction? Or inspired by actual events? You be the judge.
Fact or fiction? We'll find out at the conclusion of tonight's show. Next, a visit to the country turns into an experience that's beyond belief.
You ever long for life in the country? To leave the city behind for the fresh air, the open space, and the sounds of nature? Julia Randall was lucky to have experienced that life as a youngster when she visited her grandfather's farm. Well, those were happy, carefree times, but things change. Julia's grown up now, and listen to her story of a visit to the childhood memories that would soon turn to terror.
On the ride from the airport to the farm, I thought about how loving Grandpa Buck used to be. But the stroke had left him without the use of his legs, and he had too much time to sit around and think about dreams that would never come true. I knew I used to be his favorite, and I was looking forward to returning some of the love and attention he showed me when I was a child.
Grandpa? Grandpa, it's me!
You don't have to yell. I can hear you. I'm not deaf. I had a stroke.
You scared me.
Don't you knock? You're lucky I recognize I'd have shot you.
I'm gonna go get my stuff.
Just stay out of my way. I want you to know I don't need you here. I don't want you here. I get along just fine by myself. I have for longer than you've been alive.
He completely ignored me until the next morning. It hurt, but Grandpa had always taught me to be a fighter. I was going to give this my best shot. How'd you sleep, Grandpa? I slept great. There's nothing like fresh air. I can't wait to get outside. Do you still have the chickens? What about the cows? What was the name of the one you taught me to milk? Was it Susie?
That's the worst coffee I ever tasted. A cripple like make better coffee than you.
Well, maybe it's too strong for you, Buck.
Too strong. I'll show you too strong.
Here, you clean it up. What Grandpa didn't know, what I couldn't tell him, was that the bank was about to foreclose on the farm. Without his knowledge, I found a buyer for the back parcel, a deal that would allow Grandpa to stay on his land, but it also set off a chain of events that would haunt my dreams for the rest of my life. I asked Russ Johnson to come over this morning. He's got someone who's interested in the back parcel. I thought you should at least hear him out.
Hello?
You're going to listen this time. You have to, please. Thanks for coming over, Russ. Can I get you some coffee or something?
No, thanks. That's okay.
You're wasting your time, Russ. I'm not selling anything.
Russ has worked really hard. Do not take this out on him. I'm sorry. Please sit down.
Buck, I know how hard this is. We had to do the same thing for my dad.
Your dad died. I'm not dead yet. Just some people think I am.
So what do you have for us, Russ?
Well, I got an offer on the back parcel. He says he'll give you what you're asking. Real nice guy from the next county. His folks have been farming these parts as long as you have, Buck. And the best thing is, you get to stay in the house and keep the rest of the land.
That sounds really great. What do you think, Grandpa?
Doesn't matter what I think.
Well, I'll bring the paperwork by in the morning.
Okay.
I'm really sorry, Julia. I wish there was an easier way.
No. Thank you for everything.
You happy now? Got what you want?
What makes you so
Why
bitter?
do you think you can come here and mess up my life?
You think I want to be here? You don't even like me, Grandpa. You have been nothing but mean to me since I walked through that door.
Well, then leave. Go on, get out. I'm not gonna miss you.
I'm gonna go put the tractor in the barn. I wasn't sure I could still drive a tractor, and I could feel his eyes on me just like he watched me so many times when I was growing up.
Start it up. Sorry, that's it. Let the clutch out. No! Julia? Julia. There, Julia.
A final act of love by a man who seemed to have no love left. Could Buck's paralyzed legs have found the power to walk again to save his granddaughter? There are stories of mothers who've summoned superhuman strength. to lift heavy boulders, even cars, off their children. Did Buck experience that kind of miracle, or maybe his paralysis was only in his mind and he could walk all along? Or perhaps this story never happened.
Next, we'll find out which stories were inspired by actual events and which are fabrications on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
If you're like me, you've been forming an opinion about our stories tonight, trying to guess which stories are inspired by actual events and which stories are simply a counterfeit reality. Well, now comes the moment when we reveal the answers. Our first story was about the young man who was put in charge of his family's funeral home and encountered the shock of his young life. Is truth stranger than fiction? Did a story like this really take place? Yes, it did. And what about the runaway subway train?
Excuse me, does this train go to Melrose?
This train goes nowhere.
Would it surprise you to learn that this story was inspired by an actual experience? It was. And what's your guess on the story about the boy who feared the monster in his closet?
What's this?
That's Brian's shirt.
Where'd he go?
Who?
Brian, he went into the closet.
He's gone.
I told you there was a monster in there.
Could the idea for a story like this have come from a real-life event? Yes, it did. And what's your verdict on the defendant and the ghost he confronted in the courtroom?
What was the cause of death then, Dr.
It's all starting to unravel, Robert.
No, it's not. I won't let it.
Who are you talking to, Mr. Miller?
This is it, Robert. No one believes you.
Did this seem like a clever tale, crafted by the mind of a writer out to fool you? That's what it was. Complete fiction. Our last story tonight was about the stroke victim who left his wheelchair to save his granddaughter's life. Julia! If you thought that story really happened, we got you. It was fictional. So, were you able to tell fact from fiction tonight? Our first 3 stories were inspired by fact. The last 2 were designed to fool you. Well, that's the end of tonight's show. We'll see you next week when we attempt to demonstrate that truth can be stranger than fiction, especially strange truth. Good night.